Hello everyone, I hope you're all well today. So as you might know or you might not know, the digital marketing industry is on its knees right now. Agencies are being hit hard, margins are tight, clients are cautious, and the trust across the whole industry is already on a real low point. Now it's hard for everyone in marketing, but it's become even harder for the average solo freelancer in digital marketing. Trust issues in digital marketing aren't anything new, but it has got much worse. And it's only going to get a lot worse. Now, this isn't because freelancers can't do the work. In many cases, they can do exactly the same work as the larger agencies. Sometimes, to be honest, even better than the larger agencies. And it's not because they can't compete on price either. This isn't the real issue here. Now, the real issue is awareness. Clients are far more aware than they used to be a few years ago. They've heard the horror stories, they've experienced bad agencies, they've experienced bad freelancers, they've had over-promising, under-delivering, wasted budgets. So when they come back into the market, they're not looking for growth first, they're looking to avoid the risk. And because freelancers are smaller, the perceived risk is a lot higher. That pushes clients towards larger agencies. They might be more expensive, but in the client's mind, there's less chance of it blowing up in their face, and that feels a lot safer for them. Now, do I agree with this logic? No, I don't agree with it. But what I will say is that there are plenty of agencies out there that can't really market their own businesses, let alone someone else's business. And that's a big part of the reason trust has collapsed in the digital marketing industry in the first place. It's because, bad agencies and bad freelancers have spoken a good game, but they just can't deliver. However, now, the perception isn't built on can you deliver, it's built on what feels safe, and safety stands a better chance of delivering. Solo freelancers then try a lot harder, they work on longer hours, they chase more leads, they lower their prices, they say yes to the wrong work, and when that work still doesn't work, confidence starts to go. Then frustration creeps in, motivation drops, and the mindset starts to slip. So your self-belief then takes a massive hit. Now they're dealing with two problems at the same time. They're dealing with a lack of trust from the market and a growing lack of trust in themselves. This is where most of the advice online gets it wrong, really, because it treats this as really a confidence issue. It tells freelancers to, things like believe more, think differently, push through it. But confidence didn't create the actual problem, and it won't fix it either. There's no magic wand here. The damage to the industry is real, and we've seen it with our own eyes. We lived through it for 6 months, and over the 6 months, my hair went from down here to here. It was that stressful. Digital marketing is changing, whether people like it or not. And it's going to keep getting harder until something structural changes. Going into 2026, 2027, and then 2028 and beyond, agencies and solo operators who survive will really they move towards frameworks and proper growth systems. Not just doing more activity, not just chasing leads, but operating inside something that gives confidence to the client and to themselves. A structure that controls how prospects enter the business, how conversations happen, and how decisions finally get made. This is where you're not dependent on what a prospect thinks in that moment. They either follow the journey or they don't, and if they don't, you haven't lost anything because your time hasn't been wasted. When they do commit, you'll control how the business fixes properly without really being undercut or without consistently having to prove yourself. You know, this isn't about freelancers versus agencies. It's about industry being forced to actually grow up. You know, I really, really hate saying this, but, you know, I am a realist and I can rarely hold, you know, I can rarely hold my own water at times. And over the next few years, you know, the industry will be getting rid of a lot of dead wood throughout the marketing industry. People will go into new careers, and what will be left will be marketing professionals that work to systems and frameworks. And if you start soon, you will be front of the pack. So I will see you soon. I take care of yourselves, and hope to see you on the next video. Cheers.